Ladies and gentlemen, I know what you're all thinking. You're probably thinking, Gotham, why do you look so much like Bob Ross, bro? What's up with your hair? You need to get a haircut. And some of you probably don't even know who Bob Ross is because you're like 11 years old. May Bob Ross rest in peace. He is a legend. And yeah, right before I went live for this video, recording it, I should say, I did realize I probably do need a haircut, and I will be getting one soon. Now, why did I start this video on this nonsensical rant about my hair as opposed to chess? Because I do what I want. Now then, let's talk about what's going to happen in today's video and get past the unhinged introduction. Chess is a very unrewarding and uncompromising game. It's something that we play to challenge ourselves. It feels really, really sensational to win. But my God, does it make us feel stupid when we lose, especially when we have a good result followed by a bad result, sometimes even within the same game. Now, in today's video, I'm going to make you all feel better about yourselves. We're all going to watch today's video, and we're going to exit today's video feeling happy. Why? Well, a couple of days ago, here in August of 2024, Grandmaster Jan Nepomniachtchi, multiple-time challenger of the World Chess Championship, played one of the best games of the year. I covered that game. The video right now is called He Only Used Pawns and He Won. And that was a brilliant game. Then Jan proceeded to suffer two absolutely absurd defeats in completely different fashions and both totally ludicrous. Magnus Carlsen once, that was about a minute and 40 seconds, 50 seconds before the first mention of Magnus Carlsen in the video. Magnus Carlsen once said about Jan Nepomniachtchi, he said something really mean. He said, Jan is going to go back to doing what Jan does best, which is playing bad moves quickly. Bro, I mean, what? That is a mean thing to say about somebody. But what Jan showed in these couple of games that I'm going to show you today is wild because he's 27-7. He's one of the best players in the world. But this is sometimes the reputation that he falls back on. Now, first I'm going to show you this game against Wesley So. This is going to be our little appetizer game. And then I'm going to show you a really nice game, actually, a really instructive game, which hopefully you can learn some stuff from. This game, not too much. He plays with the black pieces. Wesley opens with knight to f3, which is the ready, which is a very interesting opening to play at many, many levels of chess, but not really at the highest level. Because at the highest level, there's no way to push for an advantage. You see b3. I've played this myself many, many times. Black now generally will play either b6 or c5. There we see c5. We have cd5, ed5. Wesley plays d4. And there are many lines here where black maintains some pieces on the board. But Jan plays knight to e4 without any thought, right? They get 2 hours on the clock. Knight e4 is a very forcing line. And black plays bishop f6 and queen a5. And this pawn kind of sits here. But if black knows what he's doing, he's simply going to neutralize. He's going to play knight c6, and it's likely just to end in a draw. Rook c1, knight c6, bishop e2, with knight c5, take, and the knight goes back, and now we have a big exchange, right? Rook c2, rook a1, and queen c6. I actually think Wesley had another game like this. Maybe even Wesley had the black pieces. Yeah, this is the game after 22 moves. And, these pawns probably get traded for each other. This is an isolated pawn for black, but black does a nice job defending it. You'll also notice Jan has not spent any time. He plays d4, he gives up the center pawn weakness, and he takes on b3, and he goes for an endgame just straight up down a pawn. 27 moves have been played by Jan Nepomniachtchi, and he has not spent any time at all. Now, this should be a draw. Now, if you trade all the rooks, white simply has more pawns, so white wins the king and pawn endgame. But with one rook or two rooks, this is a draw. Okay, well, what proceeds to happen now is obviously, Wesley's going to make some moves, and some of you may be wondering, how's this a draw? The pawn just promotes. No, black goes rook d8 and brings the king closer. You can never really get past, and that's the way it's supposed to go. But here, Jan goes for a rook trade, so unprovoked. He trades a pair of rooks, and that's like a big philosophical debate. You see the engine there now thinks white has some chances, whereas here it thought 0.2, 0.3, like kind of microscopic, but okay, whatever. Of course you can trade the rooks. And now you can hold this game. Yeah, but Jan has to play this move h5. A lot of apparently his defense has to do with a critical moment to play h5. He never plays h5. And then he allows Wesley to move his king to the center with moves like king d3 and now king c4, and Wesley's winning. So what happens here is, again, Jan needed to, at some moment, play h5 faster. I think it wasn't here. I think it was after rook a1 and king d3. He needed to play h5, which is a very odd move. But the point is, you now leave a weakness here. You know, white can play, for example, rook e5. You play rook d1 check. You force the king to make a move. You play rook d2, rook h5, rook f2. And it's still a little bit tricky and annoying. Yeah, but none of that even happens because Jan... Let me just tell you, this is 37 moves. Jan has played 37 moves in 7 minutes. He gets a bonus time every time he makes a move. The game started with 2 hours on the clock. Boys made 38 moves, 37 moves, 152. And then he doesn't defend correctly. Wesley gives up the pawn, but he's winning because this pawn is promoting and the rook cuts off the king. So d5, d6, and he just creates this nice barrier. King walks up, rook blocks all the checks, and in this position, Jan Nepomniachtchi resigns because rook d5 is threatening to cut off the king. And if you play here, king h4, you simply lose. King e7, king g3, king f7, h4, king g6, h3, and I stop the pawn. And I mean, Jan played this entire game without any... He spent 3 minutes on 33 moves. Like, what? This is so wild because he just played like a game against Giri where he played a brilliant game. And I think after this game, Jan in some interview said it doesn't make any sense how a guy like Wesley, who never plays for a win, always finds a way to win. And yes, that can be, you know, that's not exactly what he said, but he basically said Wesley always plays for a draw. And I mean, it's kind of hard to, you know, you're going to be like, well, he's salty, he lost. There is a little bit of that, but like, yeah, I mean, this is really not, this is not playing for a win. You're not really taking any risk. And guess what? I mean, Wesley's style is let the other guy self-destruct and get annoyed. And it seems to work pretty freaking well because here he is winning. Now, the next game, I honestly, this game is pretty crazy. Like, to blitz 35 moves, get a little bit absent-minded in the defense of the endgame, and then simply lose it. Like, the whole point. By the way, Jan did not need to, he probably didn't even need to enter any of this stuff. You know, I guess he was always destined to lose the pawn, but I really wonder, like, could he have played like this? Like, could he have just not lost the pawn? I mean, I don't know. Of course, it's a very depressing endgame, and you got it like b4, b5, b6 is on the way, but like, I mean, you could go, I don't know, rook c8 to create threats. I don't know. Like, I don't think you need to lose this game so easily. Anyway, the next one is even more ridiculous, perhaps. This one is pretty mind-blowing, but this is a very instructive game. It's a very beautiful game, and it features 4 brilliant moves. So obviously, you know, that's kind of nice. So his opponent for this game was Fabiano Caruana. Fabiano needed to win this game to, you know, feel happy about himself, but also to advance in the tournament. So it opened with e4, and Fabi played the Sicilian defense, right? Because that's what you do nowadays if you want to play for a win. It's a very good opening, Sicilian. Nowadays, a lot of people are playing either Najdorf or Classical. I mean, they don't play anything else. It's very rare, but at the high level, sometimes they play the Taimanov Sicilian with knight c6. But there's a lot of ways for white to get an annoying advantage. The Najdorf is very theoretically explored, but, you know, there's some ideas there. And of course, knight c6, the true and tried, the Rossalimo with many, many ideas. Fabiano plays g6, which is the accelerated dragon or hyper accelerated dragon. And basically in the dragon, and pay attention because this is actually a very interesting opening with black. It doesn't get played much at top level because if white plays like 15 to 17 moves of theory, black's just worse and never has anything. But essentially, black puts the bishop on g7, and then knight on c6, and then d6, and then white oftentimes, if white wants to play aggressive, castles this way. Black attacks there, white attacks over here. So that's exactly what happens. d4, c4, knight d4, knight, bishop g7. But this move order actually allows white to play c4, which is called the Maroczy bind. And if you can play c4, followed by knight c3, followed by bishop e3, followed by f3, this is cancerous. Like, this is really, really tough for black to crack. And I mean, it's a really, really nice setup for white. But Nepo plays knight c3. So Jan plays into the open dragon like it's the 1980s, 1990s all over again. All right? Knight to c6. Bishop e3. Bishop c4. The queen is coming here. The pawn is coming here. And we're going to long castle. Black is going to short castle. We're going to attack. Black is going to attack. Okay? This has all been played before. Castles. The bishop drops back to b3 so that it doesn't get hit with any pawn to d5. And now we have d6, f3. Now, historically, what frequently happens here is black plays bishop to d7. White moves the queen up. And then there are some lines here, like, for example, rook c8 to attack on the c file is very normal. There was an opening a while back with rook b8, and I think this was called the Chinese dragon because a lot of the Chinese grandmasters were playing it. I might be mixing up the move order slightly, but I'm trying to give you some lore. A lot of the top Chinese grandmasters playing rook b8, but modern day engines have shown that, like, white is destroying here. And back in the day when the engines weren't so strong, you could get away with stuff like this. Fabi plays queen a5. So queen a5 is a very unpopular move. It's not something that has been played too often. I mean, the ideas are quite simple. You pin the knight, right? You put a little pressure over here, but you now no longer have a5 ideas, and you no longer have knight to a5. So trying to get the bishop. So in a nutshell, queen a5 is very committal, but, you know, you just play queen d2 and move on with life. Now, here, Jan plays something which obviously has merit, because he played it. Clearly, he didn't just make it up. But I don't understand. So this is, what I'm about to show you is not what happens in the game. What I'm about to show you is what are the normal sequence of moves here. Queen d2, bishop d7, long castle, rook c8, king b1, very normal move, getting off the way, right? Knight e5, okay? g4, attacking, knight c4, take here, attacking the queen, queen goes back, and then you keep attacking. h4, e5 is an idea, g5, okay, right? Pay attention, okay? In the game, Jan plays queen d3. Walking into this move, and then plays queen d2. Now, I'm not stupid. I understand chess pretty well. I don't get why he did this. I'm still trying to figure it out, because in the normal course of action of the game, the knight goes there anyway. So he expedites the knight there, then he plays queen d2, then he castles. He's still not thinking. Now we have rook fc8, we have king b8, we have all the same moves as the game. Knight c4, take, knight back to, now he plays g4. Okay, so he plays g4, but like, we could have had this position, but white never spent the extra move. So, I don't know. I don't get it. I completely do not understand. Again, I will remind you, we could have had this exact same position, although, you know, it would have been that rook. Maybe the f rook was the one that needed to come by. All right, let's say it's like rook fc8, king b1, knight e5. It's the same position, but as the game. But in the game, white has one less move. So I don't know. I don't understand. He plays g4. Bishop to e6 is the move chosen by Fabi, who spends 20 minutes. He can play b5, bishop e6, rook c8. Bishop e6 is hoping that white takes, and then you lose somebody on the diagonal, right? So now black has nice attacking ideas. So bishop to e6. Jan plays knight to b3 pretty quickly. Now the queen goes to a6. So we kind of vaguely analyze this position. Now white has many ideas. Black's ideas include b5, b4. In a lot of different positions, black's ideas also include a sacrifice on c3. Maybe not right away, but that is a very common idea in the dragon, to do this, followed by, you know, just the absolute ravaging of the position. Like, the bishop is a killer, the knight is a killer. When black used to win games in the dragon, black would win games like this. So that's kind of the point. Yeah, I mean, visually, it looks like black succeeded. And it looks like white's attack is just a little bit slow here. But still, you know, Jan plays bishop d4. So bishop d4 has to make sense. And in a nutshell, you're like, I'm going to get rid of the dragon bishop. So black plays b5. I'm going to play g5. Black plays knight h5. I'm going to get rid of the bishop. Without the dragon bishop, black's position is significantly less powerful. Computer still thinks black is better, which is kind of crazy. But yes, the computer, you know. But okay, bishop d4. Bobby plays rook c8. Bobby's doing everything, right? Loading up the pieces here. Now, Jan just played bishop to d4, right? Rook c8. Already, despite it not looking like it, white is in some trouble. So if in this position, white plays h4, white actually loses the game. How? Well, this is a vintage idea in the dragon. So if anybody wants a nice opening weapon, here you see all the powers of the dragon. Knight takes e4. This move comes with the tempo and the queen. So you have to acknowledge it. Let's say you take with the knight. Take the bishop. You can't take because bishop and queen, you just lose. You got to sack your queen. Play something like queen e3. The rook a4. And yeah, my friends, you really... You don't want to suffer the wrath of the two dragon bishops, the rook, the queen. I mean, this is... Probably could sack the rook here, too. Probably do this. Queen a3. I mean, this is mate. This is mate in a couple moves. Terrible. Over. So, you got to really be careful about knight e4. I mean, you simply get brutalized here. Like, rooks, I mean, this is just game over. Knight e6, rook c2. Boom. Boom. Queen c4, queen... Like, it's over. So, the only move here for white, like the very few moves, you got to defend the center against this idea of knight takes e4. Jan, in this position, plays g5. He plays g5 in 6 seconds. They gain 30 seconds bonus time. If you subtract 30 seconds from 54, 24, 30, he spent 6 seconds to lose the game. Because of the exact same thing that I just showed you. Which is knight takes on d4. E4. Not d4. He plays bishop here. He plays g5. Fabi plays knight takes e4. Fabi spent 18 minutes here because I think he straight up could not believe this was happening. Couldn't believe it. He was like, hold on. Am I winning? Why did Jan play that this fast? Jan played 18 moves. Like the previous game, he's played 36 moves in 3 minutes. Knight takes e4. All you have to calculate here is fe4 and knight e4. Everything else is bad. If you take the bishop, you lose the queen. If you move the queen, I mean, I could just continue. Like, I just take, I take, and I take. Like, you stop your calculation here because you're up 2 pawns and you're going to win everything else. Knight takes e4 is crazy. And now Jan took back. And I think, you know, he spends 16 minutes on the move where he's already just lost. Like, it starts sinking in. You take bishop d4, and then Jan sat there in total devastation. He couldn't believe it. Knight d4 and simply rook c3. And if you take on c3, it's queen a2 and queen a1 mate. And if you play here, you lose the queen, and then it's, I don't know, queen a2 and queen c4, and you just win. I mean, you're just winning. Knight e6. The engine even wants queen c3. It doesn't even want to take the knight. It wants to win the rest of the pawns. And then it wants to have all these pawns against the rooks and knight. So fe4, bishop d4, Jan goes a3. And I mean, he's a pawn down, but it's just over. Fabi now plays queen c4. A beautiful move. You still can't take the rook because of this mate. So you got to go b3. Now the rook can't be taken. Now a3 is hanging. You can't even protect a3. You know why you can't protect a3? Bishop b3. Absolutely brutal. Ask, what's the big deal? e5. I threaten the knight, and more importantly, you lose the defense of c2. So if you play rook c1, I go here, 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 here. Even though you can win this pawn, you are losing because black has more pawns in a king and pawn endgame. King e6, g5, h5, g4, h4, blah, 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 and you lose. So Jan plays rook c1, loses a second pawn. Knight b5 is a fork, but it doesn't work because queen b4. Knight c3, rook c3, the threat is rook b3, and if here, the threat is bishop b3. I mean, this is vintage dragon stuff. This is made in a few moves. This is made in a few moves. This is not made, but you lose all your pawns. Rook c1, queen a3, rook c5, rook f1, bishop b3, and Jan resigned. Just absolutely shocking. I mean, he just finished playing the game of the year so far. He played an incredible game. I mean, and with these two defeats, he lost like, I don't know, 12 rating points or something like that, and he fell to 8 in the world. Maybe it wasn't 12, but he's down to 2761. And a lot of the top players are falling out of the 2800 club. So, but this is just so wild. I mean, he just finished playing an incredible game and 2 games, one in an end game and one like this. And some of you might feel sad, and I feel sad and bewildered when I watch stuff like this. But it just goes to show that even at the 2767 level, hey, chess is hard. All right, and the next time you feel bad about yourself losing, just remember that it happens at the highest level. It happens in a variety of different ways, and it never really gets any better, you know? So that's the lesson. That's the lesson, is that you could play the game of your life, and then you're going to wake up and play 2 very questionable ones right after. So we're all in this for the long haul. We hope that Nepo can bounce back. Well, not everybody. I mean, some people actively, root for him to lose. So, but I'm just saying, as a general chess spectator, we root for him to do better than this. And a very nice win by Fabi, obviously, very nice. And yeah, Dragon is a very nice opening to add to the toolbox. That's all I have for you today. For now, get out of here.